Hi everyone, my name is Chris Yee and welcome out to the Dice Tower. Today I'm going to be talking about WolfWalkers My Story. This is a card game based on an animated film by the company Cartoon Saloon. This is directed by Tommy Moore and it's the third of his Irish folklore trilogy, which consists of WolfWalkers, The Song of the Sea, and The Irishman. So this is a game based on a children's movie. How is it? Well, let me show you how it plays, then I'll give you my thoughts. Here's the setup for a game of WolfWalkers My Story. There is a deck of cards that consist of double-sided cards. Story cards, as they're called in the front, showing symbols in the bottom left, and a nice steal from the movie, and on the back side showing scoring objectives. The point of the game is to build a 5x5 grid of cards in front of you, filled with both the story cards and objective scoring cards, and then you'll be scoring these cards based on the symbols in the row in front of you. It also comes with two reference cards that show the relative distribution of the different symbols on here to help you kind of gauge if these objectives are easier or harder. On your turn, you simply grab one of these cards and add it into your grid. At the beginning of the game, it can be anywhere. Then you'll replace the card with the appropriate side. If you took a story card, you'll replenish it with the top story side. If the next player takes an objective card, then you'll flip this objective card to the back side and replenish it. And you just simply take turns doing this. I might take this card and put it over here because you see this one scores 2 points for every parent symbol that is in this row or column. And I've got a parent symbol right over here. Then I'll go ahead and say, you know what, I want to grab another parent symbol and I'm going to place it over on this side of my grid, and so on and so forth, until eventually you fill in a 5x5 grid full of objective cards and the story cards. And that's really it. Now there are a few things that I would like to also add in as for your information. The game comes with 2 modules that you can mix or play with individually, and these are the permanent changes cards and the opportunity cards. I'll explain the permanent changes cards. These you simply add one to the start of each game. This one says more choices for setup. Prepare an additional row in the market with 2 story cards and 1 objective card. So you will have, if you play with this permanent change card, you'll simply have more choices to choose from over the course of the game. Or you might have something like this: everything is possible. You can use the same story cards to score the same objective card multiple times. Now, one of the things is you'll see that these scoring objectives will sometimes have shapes that you need to complete: a castle and robin symbol, or robin, wolf form, robin. Now, if you had 3 cards in a row that score this way, you would score 5 points. But if you had a wolf form and a robin card here, you can't use this same symbol, the same card that has that symbol, to score both across and up and down. But if you play with this permanent story card, this permanent change card, you could. Or you can play where you can place diagonally as well as orthogonally, because every card that you add has to be adjacent, up, down, left, or right, to a previously played card, whereas if you play with this change, you could add new cards in a diagonal orientation. This one lets you take 2 cards per turn, and so the game will move along quicker. So a single icon cards are worth 2 extra points at the end of the game. There's also ones that say, hey, every one of these symbols that you have is worth an extra point. So you just play with 1 permanent change per game. The opportunity cards over here are, you'll have 3 of them out, and they are one-time use abilities. So for example, you can look through the entire deck here and pick out any story side card that you want. So you can go through and look for the perfect match of symbols for whatever you need in your grid. These cards come with these to indicate if players have used them. At the beginning of the game, you'll say, hey, these are not used yet by anyone. Hey, player B used it. Player B can only use it once. And then once player A uses it, you'll flip it to the side here that says both players have used it. And so that's a system for doing that. And so what are some of the other opportunity cards? You can swap the position of 2 cards that you've already placed, or you can replenish the market, shuffle all the cards in the market to the bottom of the deck, and then replenish it completely. Or, at the end of the game, you can choose not to score one of your objectives and instead score one of your opponent's objectives as if it were in your grid of cards. So you see that these are all powers. Search through the deck for the objective side of cards and look for the perfect objective maybe that you need in your grid. So there you go. That's what comes inside WolfWalkers My Story. I've been a big fan of the work of Cartoon Saloon. I've watched their previous films, The Secret of the Kells, The Song of the Sea, and even The Breadwinner. But this one, it takes place in the Irish folklore trilogy, I guess. And I haven't watched this movie, but I've watched a lot enough from the studio to know that I really like their films, their feel, and I really like the mythology that goes into them. So I have an idea of what's going on in the movie, sort of, but I can't really tell you if this ties in terribly thematically well with it. It's definitely essentially an abstract game. You want to match up symbols into different shapes or match equal amounts of them. The objective cards have a good variety of what you want to search for. Hey, in this row and column, you want to have wolf form symbols, or you want to have parent symbols, or another one will say, hey, you want to have castles adjacent to parents. And so you're building your little array of cards, and it's an easy game to play. But the choices are pretty neat in it because you have to build adjacent to previously played cards, and there's times where you really know that you want this kind of set off to the side somewhere. So do you take it now? Do you leave it? Is your opponent going to draft it out of the middle? I would say really solid, really well done. It reminds me of two games, right? It reminds me of the drafting mechanism of Point Salad. And if I had never played Point Salad, I would probably look at this and say, oh my gosh, this is so creative and clever. I've never seen anything like it before. It feels a lot like it. But that's not a bad thing because there's not a ton of games that have done that. So does this one have originality in that sense? Not quite, but also I do like that instead of just building sets, you are building an actual shape. And that's where the other game comes in that this makes me think of. If you've not played King Domino, there's a lot of tension in the order that you grab things because you have to build adjacent to where you've been before. I like the fact that cards have multiple symbols on them, and so it's not just grabbing a castle card and then a parent card and you score 3 points for putting them next to each other. But you grab a card that has a castle and maybe a wolf form on it, you place it here, and then you've got that one that has parents and it has Robin and it has Meb. And then those cards can also be used for scoring other kinds of objectives. You want to have as many cards with Robin on them, the yellow symbol, in this row. So you're balancing a lot all at once, and it becomes fairly thinky. And I think that this impressed me more than the first game of it kind of allowed me to appreciate, right? More plays of this made me say, hey, this is getting better. So I like that. I also like that those permanent and they're the opportunity change cards, and there's a couple of opportunity cards I don't like where you can mess with your opponents and stuff. That's not really the way I want to play this, but I like more the flexibility of being able to search for a specific card. Usually I don't like search the entire deck for the card that you want, but the cards are so straightforward on either side that that's still going to be a quick affair. Or wiping the market, or those permanent cards like grab 2 cards at once. That feels a lot more like Point Salad even. But I like that. I really like the variability that adds from game to game. It's a solid core. It has neat variability. It has gorgeous artwork, and it takes place in this really neat mythological universe. It's limited, of course, and you can only play 2-player, but there will come a point where you'll build a grid and you'll say, oh, cool, I've done it, right? Is this game going to have the replayability for years to come? I don't think so, even with playing with those change cards, but I think that it's going to have a good amount of interest and being pulled off the shelf. It helps that it looks gorgeous, and it helps that the box says age 8+ on it. And I think that, depending on your kid, obviously, I think kids could play this one, and maybe they'll struggle with the layers of scoring, right? Oh, this one card can score for like 3 different objective cards. If I plan it all out right, they'll kind of play more by the seat of their pants, but you can do that and still have fun even if you don't win in this game. On the downside, on another downside, there are, like I said, some of those opportunity cards I don't like. I will just pull them out of the box and never play with them. And then there's a permanent change card, because that's an optional thing. You shuffle the permanent change card deck and you flip one over. There's one that says, no permanent change this game. That's a waste of a card. Don't do that. I can't explain just how much I looked at that card and I said, no, I'm literally never going to play with this. If I choose to play with the permanent change module, I'm not going to take the card that says, no permanent change this game. Also, I wish that there were tokens for those opportunity cards where there's that secondary card, you flip it and turn it around, so, oh, the player A used it, and you flip it around, oh, player B used it, or both. I don't like that system. Also, the art is not printed to the end, so you're supposed to like line up these two like symbols together, these two half circles, and because there's a border around the card, they don't line up, and visually I just think, I wish that there were just like, 6 punch-out tokens or something. Maybe that would increase the cost of this game. It's all cards. It's really neat. So anyway, I recommend this one. I'm going to give this one a 7.5. WolfWalkers My Story is a game that grew on me. It intrigues me, and I think that a lot of people will like it. It's not as ingenuitive and creative as it could be, but this is a really solid game. So I'd recommend it. Go check it out. Anyways, my name is Chris Yee. Thank you for coming by the Dice Tower. Have a great day. Let me show you how it plays, then I'll give you my thoughts. Is it The Irishman?